Welcome everybody to my Football Manager save, and welcome to my channel as well if you're new here. So this is my first video. I thought I'd just show you around what I've been doing on Football Manager for the last, since it's been out really. I've been playing this one save. But yeah, I thought I'll start a channel with the imminent release of FM24, 25, in a couple of months. And see how we get on, because I really enjoy Football Manager. It's something that I play a lot of. As you'll see how far I am in this save, you could probably already see if you look at the date. But yeah, I just wanted to share where I am to this point, what my plans are for that 2-month period in between before Football Manager 25 gets released. And I might do a little mini series or something like that. But I just wanted to show you the career of my pseudonym in this game, Jimmy Broadfoot. That is not my name, for anyone knows. As you can see, he's at Man City. The year's 2045. You might have noticed I've added the editor in this one, and that is purely because I like renaming the stadiums and things like this. So when you get this far in a game, then you want to sort of rename some of the stadiums, or there's some glitchy bugs. It's always worth having it on just to sort of maybe fix the game in here and there, and just make sure it runs smoothly. And it adds to a bit of realism, not having every team play at X team name stadium or X team name arena, you know. So yeah, so that's why that's there. But let's get through it. I'll show you. As you can see, he's in Man City at the moment. Let's go to his profile. Good old Jimmy. Here's his profile. You can see all the stuff that he's won, how many games he's played, over 1,112 games. So if we look at his history and his job history, and you can see where he began his career. So if we look all the way down the bottom and all the way back to 2022, he was at Eastern Sports Club in the Hong Kong Premier League. Yes, that's right. Started the career in the Hong Kong Premier League. Was there for 9 seasons. Started, it doesn't say the position for the first season, because it's a bit weird the way it started with the Hong Kong Premier League. He was actually unemployed for the first, I think it was 6 months, and then he became Eastern manager, and then the season kicked in. So first season finished 4th, won nothing. Second season, won the league, consecutive titles for 6 years, which was pretty impressive. Won multiple cups, did relatively well in the Asian Champions League. I mean, when I say relatively well, a couple of draws and maybe the occasional win against some far superior sides. Like the Hong Kong Premier League is not up there in the Asian football sphere, should we say. I did set a rule for this career in the fact I didn't want Jimmy just taking any old job. He wouldn't go out applying for jobs. He only moved club when he was approached by another team, and he considered that team to be in a better position than the one he was currently at. So he did get approached by a J-League team in 2028. Went for the interview, unfortunately didn't get it, but that's the sort of thing, that's a step above in Asia, so he would take that job realistically. However, Turkish club Gaziantep came calling in 2030, and this was a big step up from the Hong Kong Premier League. Someone in a top division in Europe taking a punt on this guy who, yeah, he's clean sweeped the Hong Kong Premier League, but can he cut it in Europe? They were in a relegation battle when he took over. So finishing 11th, I think, looking at that 11th place finish, you think, oh wow, he's done really well. But actually the bottom 7 or 8 teams were really separated by only a few points, and it was the last couple of games of the season that actually pushed him up to that 11th place. It wasn't a wild sort of, oh, he's gone on a big mazy run as soon as he joins. It was sort of a trudge and just out at the last minute. The second season was much better, finishing in 6th, and then he left midway through, well, quite early on in the season in the 3rd year, because he got offered a job by Auxerre. Auxerre at the point were in Ligue 1. They're an established Ligue 1 side at this point as well. And he managed to finish 5th, which was pretty impressive. So 2 5th place finishes and then a 3rd place finish to get them into the Champions League. So his first foray into Champions League football with Auxerre, followed by another 5th and then a 6th. And then probably his earliest, finest achievement, not to play down any of those Hong Kong Premier League wins and the cups that he all won there and all those trophies, but he won the Coupe de France with Auxerre in 2037, and it was their first trophy for a very long time. So it was quite a big moment, like first major trophy for Jimmy Broadfoot in his career. The season after, he managed to finish 2nd, took that cup win and finished in 2nd place. The only other things that you might see there, he won the Europa League and the Coupe de France again. So this is another step up for Jimmy Broadfoot at this point. He's in the Champions League. He won the Europa League that season. He's won the Coupe de France again. He gets offered the French job, takes over at France, plays 3 games and gets bored, and then and then moves on. So yeah, his foray as France manager didn't really come to anything. And then in his 3rd season, he left towards the end of the season. He won a lot of, as you can see, quite a few pre-season tournaments, you could say. So the Trophée de Champion, which is essentially the Community Shield for France, UEFA Super Cup, and the European South American Club Challenge, which is the winners of the Europa League versus the winners of the Copa Sudamerica. So yeah, he managed to win that. Left them in 3rd place. They actually went on to win the league that season, which is mad because he never won Ligue 1 with Auxerre, and he left to take over it. Well, he got offered a job at Man City, which he couldn't really turn down. They hadn't won the league for a couple of years. They were pushing, but they weren't quite there yet. And he's gone and taken them over, and they were a super team at this point. So in his first season, he managed to win the Carabao Cup, and that was it. Just the Carabao Cup. Finished in 2nd place. They sacked their manager after they were in 6th, and it was coming into like the January transfer window. He took over and managed to get them up 2nd. There wasn't that much of a gap between them and 2nd, but I think Liverpool won the league that year, and they were just runaway winners. And then we've got 5 Premier League titles on the bounce. In his 2nd season, he managed to win the Carabao Cup, the Premier League, the FA Cup, and the Champions League. 3rd season, everything bar the Carabao Cup. And then he missed out on the Champions League in his 4th year. Premier League and Champions League. Premier League, Super Cup, Community Shield, and the Champions League. And so far, Super Cup and Community Shield. And as you've probably seen, 6 games into the season, some cracking results. Bear in mind, Birmingham City are new to the division, so an 8-0 win is, understandable. But if we just jump across to the squad at the moment, so none of these players you're going to recognise. It's 2045, so we're in it 20, 30 odd seasons, in 23 seasons into the save. But there's some absolute world class players here, and some really good young players as well that are trying to push through the academy. The academy at Man City is something else. They've also got you can sign anyone, and that's what I want to know in the comments as well. Where do I take this next? So Jimmy's obviously at his peak. I set that rule at the start that he can only take a job when he's offered one. So far at Man City, no one's offering him a job because he's winning the Champions League, he's winning the Premier League. I don't think he really can go much higher unless he went to one of the big European teams, but that's sort of taking a step across. So if we look at the Champions League, if we look at the Champions League quickly, and go into that. So he did lose to Liverpool in the Champions League group stage. Ugh. But yeah, if you look at the history in the Champions League winners, so Bayern Munich maybe, could he go back to Auxerre, considering he's beaten them twice in the last 2 Champions League finals? Barcelona maybe, Nice I know are a very good side in France. They were massively difficult to beat when I was manager of Auxerre. But where does Jimmy go from here? I think it's a case of he might have to apply for jobs because they're not really going to be offered, or he just sees out the rest of his career at Man City and just wins everything every season, which can get a little bit boring. I've got a lot of leagues loaded, like South America, North America and things like this. I always thought that, as he started in Hong Kong, would he want to go back to Asia? Now he's a bigger manager and try and beat Asia. Now he's beaten Europe. Or does he want to try his hand in Brazil and Argentina? So it is something that I'm going to consider. And if we look at the schedule as well, there you can see like just smashing everyone. But like, yeah, so it's quite an exciting time, an exciting save. Some of the big players throughout his career and his saves. Giuseppe Bartoloni was with him at Auxerre. He's been with him at Man City. He's an absolute beast of a defender, as you can see. One of the best centre-backs in the world. You've got Philippe Fehrenbach, one of the absolute world beaters of a winger. I'm surprised that it took him a long time to get an England call-up, and I was surprised by that. If we look at one of the best strikers in the world at this point is Scott Campbell, the Northern Irishman. Bought him from Southampton, but he's 86 goals in 132 matches. There's some absolute wonder players here, and if I just go back to some of the transfers, that's the one thing with the transfers. We've actually been really frugal in the fact that we've been selling a lot more than we've been bringing in. So when you're a big team like Man City, you don't really need to make huge amounts of signings. That's what I found, and I find that it's sort of players on the peripheral that are getting to that age and they're not quite going to cut it in the first team, and you sell them on for big money because they've had some good loan spells, or they're a player who's getting to that twilight of their career, like in their early 30s or something, and then you sell them because inevitably one of these Saudi Arabian clubs comes piping for them and you just sell them off. And then I've just brought in some good players that could potentially, you got some that have potential, like these smaller value ones, and then a few more which are a bit more, they might make an impact on the first team, mainly Philip Volker. The others aren't going to make much of an impact on the first team, I don't think. 2 games from us from Las Linz. He's one of the best. He's a wonder kid, basically, from Austria. Centre back or defensive midfielder. One of the big signings that went out, Lucas de Silva. He was with me a long time. He was the scourge of me in defence when I was playing Auxerre for Nice. So I signed him for Man City when I moved there, and he was a cracking defender. Not quite as good as some of the other defenders that I had, but he was very consistent. If we go back in time, as you can see, my transfers in tend to be a lot smaller than my transfers out. So I've been making money, and I've been quite frugal with this as well. Like if I'm bringing in a big signing, then I'll just offset it with selling a larger, or a player that's worth a lot more money, or not that, just selling them on. My old club obviously comes in for a few players as well. One of the best players that I've had at Auxerre, I don't know if he's still here. So Jerry Aliou was a good player. Signed him at Gaziantep when he was a youngster from Bendel Insurance, who are from Nigeria. Played 7 games. He was only 16, and then signed him for Auxerre. 243 appearances, 2 goals. Cracking little right back, and has been a staple at Auxerre for his entire career. And the fact that I signed him as a 16-year-old and I've seen his entire career develop is pretty cool to see that sort of thing. Nelson Motloli was a great player as well. 130 goals in 216 appearances. I'm trying to look for... And they must have sold him. Oh no. So Martin Fejo, I signed him as a youngster at Gaziantep and he was absolute world beater. Bought him with me to Auxerre. Didn't quite hit the ground there and Real Madrid came in for him. Sold him to Real Madrid. 2 years later, bought him back to Auxerre because they were getting rid of him for cheap and I actually made money on that. And then it looks like Auxerre sold him to Sheffield United where he played 2 games before retiring. But he was an absolute fantastic player for all the clubs that I had him at. And it's a shame that he only had 1 appearance for Portugal, but he did score a goal. So there we go. He did score a goal for Portugal. In terms of other players, I can see, where are they? Where is he? Suleiman Jonathan, another youngster that I had very, very young at Gaziantep, 1.4 million from Nigeria. Didn't have him long, Gaziantep, and Arsenal came calling you. When you play in the Turkish league, your best players inevitably get picked up and then they get sold. Arsenal came in for him. I had a torrid time at Arsenal where he didn't really play. This guy had huge potential to be one of the best players in the world, and unfortunately I think he went to Arsenal a bit too young. We took him back on loan and he performed really well, and then he performed relatively well in Scotland, but Arsenal just never gave him the chance. Signed him at Auxerre when I moved. I was at Auxerre a couple of years by then, and look at those ratings and the goals. As a central midfielder, that is fantastic. He had a couple of injuries though. And I thought, why not bring him to Man City? And just before I sold him to Real Madrid, where he is now, look at that. Look at that season. But he was getting on, they were offering 56 million, I thought. 56 million for a 30-odd-year-old. You have to take it, really. Because it's only going to go down from there. There's no nostalgia in these sort of pieces. In terms of players that have come in since I was there, I'm trying to find one of the best players I've had. Paulo Silva is, and he's currently at Man City with me, and he's probably the best player in the world. I'll just click on him, and I mean, he's something else, to be honest. As an inverted winger, probably one of the best players in the world. But in terms of the players that I'm looking for, we are looking for someone I had. I'm trying to remember his name. I should really remember the name of some of my favourite players, shouldn't I? Has Paulo Hidalgo retired? It's a shame. I must have signed him this season. There we are. Valmir Kochi. Currently winding down his career at Al Hilal. Legendary centre-back, as you'll probably see there. So you can see like his stats are good, and as a centre-back he was something else. So Kosovan. So it's quite an odd... it's why you sort of remember these players, because they're from like nations that you don't consider to be like the best, like, or they come from those smaller nations and you think, oh wow, and to have like a Kosovan centre back, and he was one of the best players in the world. Obviously 31 years old now, but 111 caps, 303 appearances for Auxerre. If you look at his career stats, consistent. It's actually got better with age, but yeah, always consistently good. for Auxerre. Tried to sign him for Man City, didn't want to come. But if you do look at his personal profile, so his happiness, sorry, so holds you in the highest regard. So like, it's not that he didn't want to come because of me, it's because Auxerre didn't want to lose him. I think that was the main crux of it, to be fair. But yeah, there's a brief squish around some of the stuff here. I'll just quickly run through some of the winners in some of these past competitions so you can sort of see it. So I took over Man City in 39-40, about January sort of time, and finished second. Won the league every year since. You can see Liverpool won it 4 years. Man United actually got one in there. Funny thing about Man United, they've actually been relegated recently. They had ridiculous financial difficulties and lost a lot of their players and went into administration. So they've just been promoted back to the Premier League, but they were relegated last season. So if you look at their competitions, we go to their domestic leagues. Yeah, they spent 2 years in the Championship. Horrendous season. This one, they lost a lot of their players, 8 points. It started going downhill. They won the league here, 5th, 4th, 5th, 5th, 11th. Bit of financial difficulty, lost a lot of players, lost even more players and points deductions, relegated, and then 2 years in the Championship before coming back up. First season back in. I don't know where they're predicted to be finished, actually. I'll have a look. Season preview. Bottom. Predicted to be last. But yeah, so they went a bit wild. So it was a bit of a strange one there. In terms of the Champions League, you obviously see that I've won it recently. So if we go to Europe, club competitions, Champions League, and we look at history and look at past winners. So you can see that, yeah, I've won it 4 out of the last 5 years and finished runners-up. One season as well to Bayern Munich. Season I joined, they were already out of the Champions League. Nice won that one. Like I said, when I was at Auxerre, Nice were one of the best teams. So impossibly hard to beat. Man United actually winning the Champions League and finishing runners-up twice here as well. Liverpool getting one in, Chelsea getting one in, Barcelona, PSG, Arsenal. Some more interesting ones as you get further on. So like obviously with Nice winning, and then Feyenoord getting to a final, Benfica getting to a final, and then Auxerre. I must have left them in good nick because they're getting to finals now. But unfortunately they're facing their old manager, so it's going a bit wrong there for them. If you look at the Europa League, huge mixed bag here. Liverpool winning it last season against Marseille. You can see my Auxerre team winning it against Inter. That's when I won it there. Finished runners-up as well with Auxerre to Real Sociedad. Brighton got to a final. Man United have won a couple. Ajax, Leicester. Villarreal, Alkmaar beating Chelsea in 2040. If we go to the Conference League, you can see some of the winners here. Arsenal and PSG winning there. Aalborg getting to a final in 43. Which is probably a bit of a surprise. And FC Lugano getting to a final quite early on, which is another bit of a surprise. If we look at European international competitions, I'll just show the... So everyone's interested in the European Championship, and we look at the past winners. So Portugal 2024 beat Slovenia in the final. Isn't quite what happened in real life, but then we get Portugal, Spain, Italy, Spain, England. So I mean, believable in realism there. I don't think there's anyone. I mean, Austria and Belgium, but you're 20 odd years into the future. It's only that Slovenia getting to the final in 2024, which is a bit of an odd one. And then if we look at the World Cup. Oh, that's the World Club Cup. So I haven't actually won this as Man City manager. That wasn't me. So, yeah, interestingly, like I played in it once and I got to here. I played in it again here. I lost to Auxerre, like quite heavily. I think I was at 8-0 or something like this. It was weird. It was such a weird game. But Barcelona won it there. But that's the World Club Cup. Hasn't happened that often. But yeah, interesting. Barcelona seem to love it. If we go to international competitions again, and we go to FIFA World Cup, there we are. We go to past winners. So Austria won it in 2026, Norway 2030, Portugal, Spain, England. Runners-up are interesting. South Africa 2038, Saudi Arabia 34. France and Croatia losing to Norway and Austria is a bit surprising. No Brazils, no Argentinas. Well, Brazil third place, the most recent one, but no Argentinas. Spain are there, no Germany. So yeah, it's interesting to see these as well in terms of the World Cup. England winning the last one. Not dominating, which usually happens in FM. If you've played long-term FM saves, England tend to dominate these competitions. They've only just won the last one in 2042. I think the reason for that is if we look at how many leagues I've got loaded. If I just quickly go to add remove leagues, I've got a lot of leagues loaded. So the fact I've got a lot of leagues loaded and there's quite a spread. So I've got some in South America, some in North America, Asia, Africa, around Europe as well. It tends to dilute that sort of base and makes it a bit more even playing field. Whereas if you just load the English leagues, I think England as a national team tend to perform a bit better in long-term saves. That's what I've noticed anyway. I don't know whether that's true or not. But yeah, that's interesting. I'll throw some other things out. Let's have a look at awards. People always like to see the award winners. So it's the goal 50. What do we want? Well, golden ball. We go back. You got Bukayo Saka winning it there. Haaland, Mbappe, Lamine Yamal, Rodrigo Ribeiro. And then we're getting into some more regen sort of players. I like these regen faces. They're cool. So they sort of automatically, I sort of do a pack and then it automatically updates them every time a new youth intake comes through. And then if we go to World Player of the Year, I imagine it's quite similar. Yeah, so similar sort of thing with Jude Bellingham winning it back here. He's still playing. And he's a manager. Cool, but I think that's it. I hope you enjoyed this and give us a like and a subscribe if you're interested for some more content. Comment on there to see where you think the manager should go next or we should go next, and then also give me some suggestions on what I can do in this sort of like interim period just before FM25 comes out. But thanks for watching and take it easy.